Yeah. So I saw everybody. Yeah, I'm live. I saw everybody making pets a couple weeks ago, and I wanted to make some pets. So Jin convinced me to make a pet system for my game Anarchy Arcade. I was holding off on making a pet system because to do a proper pet system, you need to use like a nav mesh or navigation nodes, and Source Engine has both of those systems, but it's complex to do that in my game because it's using add-on content. None of the levels were actually made for my game. It loads levels from other games, so they don't have the kind of a consistent kind of nav mesh to depend on. Some don't have any at all. So I've been holding off on NPCs and bots for that reason, and pets is a version of those kind of things. But Jim convinced me that it could still be pretty cool to do just without even worrying about collisions. So I tried that out, and I first landed on this lion here, and I'm going to show you some other stuff that I landed on. But the end of the story was that the users of Anarchy Arcade actually liked it. They didn't. They haven't had it in the update yet, but they like how it's looking, and they don't really mind that it'll fly through the walls sometimes and stuff like that, like I'm about to show you. So I wanted to make a easy, simple system. So I used a pet system, a rig concept that only uses two animations, idling and going forward. And then when the thing just has to spin, if it just has to spin slowly, it just rotates. But if it has to spin a lot, it acts like it's running forward while it rotates. So all that's to make a pet, all that's required is a model and some other stuff that I'm going to show you right now. So this is the actual command, the top line that I send into Anarchy Arcade to create a pet. I tell spawn pet, that's the command. I just tell the file name, which is the MDL. That's the format that Source Engine uses instead of like GLB. It uses MDL. Then it's followed by the name of the animation sequence to use. In Source Engine, the animations are compiled into the model. So I just have to give it a name. So I give it a forward animation name, an idle animation name. And those had to be variables because they're different in each model. This model, just the Tubby Cat, I made it. So it just had run and idle. It had good names. I ported it, but the other models, they would have ridiculous names that I would have to use for going forward and idling, just depending on what they had. And some models didn't have any animations at all. So I needed a versatile system where I could just say an animation name no matter what the model was, it would work. So just forward and idle. Scale, because like the lion, it was huge. Later on, I made a tiny lion that would follow me around, or a tiny crocodile. So some things just don't work as pets. Another thing is I had Boba Fett's ship. It was huge, but I scaled it down really small. I was able to use it as a pet. These are the kind of pets you would see in like SWTOR or something, where it's like a droid flyer that follows you around. I also made like a mouse droid. Anyways, rotation, passed it as a Euler position. That's the offset. Because, like I said, my game is dealing with add-on content, so often the pets are coming in horrible shapes. They're the wrong scale, they're at a wrong rotation, and they're offset from their model's origin. So in order to support UGC like that, you got to be able to let people apply their offsets afterwards, which is related to the avatar screenshots that I posted into the chat a moment ago, earlier on, that Sansar had. They let you position your wearables after you spawn them in. Anyways, the last three numbers there. I have the inner radius, the outer radius, and the speed. This is the most simple I can figure it out. So what the AI does, the logic of the AI, let me show you what it's doing as I describe it. So I'm going to describe these three numbers here. And I use AI loosely. It's really dumb, but it is... if you go further than the outer radius, it tries to walk towards you, beeline straight towards you, until it reaches the inner radius. When it reaches the inner radius, it stops, and it does this at whatever speed you define. So I had to do this so the thing wouldn't just follow me around, even if I moved a little bit. There's that buffer zone between the inner radius and the outer radius where the NPC will just look at you, but it doesn't have to move. It doesn't feel like it just needs to move for every inch that you move. You have to move far enough away out of that outer radius for it to say, okay, now I'm going to run all the way up to the inner radius. Turned out working pretty well. I ran into a thing where if I had multiple pets following me, they would all line up and be inside of each other because they don't have collisions. So I had to make a system where, depending on how many pets are following you, the first pet follows you the most closest, but all the other pets, they have a factor of n, whatever number pet they are that are following you, and they loosen up some. So they expand whatever minimum inner radius and outer radius that's defined for them. They multiply it if they're like the third or the fourth one. That way, then they also do it to the inner radius, right? So when they run up to you, they don't stop on top of the other ones. Usually, it depends because these are variables. You could set the inner radius and outer radius to whatever you want per model. But as long as they're pretty similar models, they don't line up, and they stand staggered. Master Chief there, he is also an NPC. He's also a pet. He followed me there. I'll just show you a couple more MP4s of these guys in action. Here's a little cleaner bot. This one had no animations at all.
Keeps dropping out here as well for some reason.
Perhaps that will be better. Okay, so here's this. Were you guys able to read the text earlier when I was saying it? I'll go back to that in a minute, just in case. Okay, cool. Yeah, so here's one that had no animations at all. It still works. It still follows you around. There's a little mouse droid following me too. And here is when I realized, right now in Anarchy Arcade multiplayer, we're just floating heads. We're really crappy avatars. And I've always wanted to do this NPC thing where the NPC represents you and it just tries to stand where you're standing. And if you move too quickly, it just goes over there as fast as it can. Because I believe in loose syncing in these kind of social apps. And I think that it's okay if the other person, if he's moving quickly, he's not standing exactly where he's standing, if it looks really good when he's walking there. So right now we have TV heads that kind of they're TV heads that show like the webcam or the Steam avatar. They position themselves exactly where the users are. But I was thinking I'm going to switch it over to this kind of multiplayer avatar system where you can come in as any model that only needs, because they're basically pets, you only need a walk forward and an idle animation, and you'll be able to have that person as your actual avatar in multiplayer, not just as a pet. And I'll have to work in the pets also. I actually haven't created the UI for pets yet. It's all just that command. And here's the grand finale of the Tubby Cat. People loved the Tubby Cat, by the way, even on my stream. That has nothing to do with blockchain. Okay, so once again, there is the pet format. So as far as interop, if we have this kind of, as Jen explained it to me, this is the rig that he was implementing too, I believe, in Webiverse for his pet. It was just walking forward or idling, and it had really dumb animation, really dumb logic. So if we have something this simple, pets could be pretty portable, especially if you replace that file name with a URL to a GLB or like what are the Webiverse files, the meta files that explain something instead of just linking to the asset. Those are real good. Maybe something like that. That concludes what I wanted to say about pets. I just wanted to show another thing real quick that we're doing in Anarchy Arcade that has to do with the NPCs. The other week, a bunch of community members were sending me their avatars. Some were like Vroids, some were Ready Player Me's, some were just models they made. Some were characters that already existed in the game that other people ported, like Rick back there that you can barely see. Anyways, I ported everybody's model into Anarchy Arcade as an NPC. We call them NPCs. They're more like props. These are kind of NPCs. They're NPCs without a quest. You can give them quests. So they could talk and do all that kind of stuff. But they're more like props. You choose their animation when you drop them down. And we're having the screenshot contest. That's what this HackMD is about. But some actual screenshots of them. Or like this one, we're having a screenshot contest. Like I said, we're spawning them in all of our different arcades. And this one, and this is why I asked that question earlier, because we are putting ourselves, we have these avatars now, my community in Anarchy Arcade, and we're putting ourselves in all of our levels, and we're giving each other quests. Like I tweeted the quest that I gave Jen a while ago, where he's trying to sell me NFTs in one of my levels, but it's not really representative of the person's personality, other than whatever artistic interpretation the person that wrote the quest made. So we got our avatar models in all of our levels. If we just had a way for the actual people to write the quests that end up in all those levels, it would be awesome. And I'm going to be doing that in Anarchy Arcade pretty soon. Not in the next week or anything, but pretty soon. And it'd be awesome to get some interop going with that and the other things with their quests as well. And that is it. Thank you, everybody, for watching. If you have any questions, you go ahead and shoot. Also, just some general information. Anarchy Arcade is on Source Engine. I've made a client front end for it. So Anarchy Arcade is actually engine agnostic. So the metadata of it can be visualized in a bunch of different front ends. So right now the main front end, and forever probably, is on the Source Engine, because Source Engine is excellent. It can load all this content from other games straight from their install folders without having to port or do anything like that. But I also have made 3JS front end in the past, alpha that I scrapped. I made a Unity one that I made and I scrapped. But I started a Play Canvas one recently that is going to stick. And that is, it's going to have, I'm going to be prototyping a lot of the cross compatibility between the Source Engine and the Play Canvas one in the coming months. There was also a 2D top-down web client that was completely interoperable. You could walk around the servers with the other people and watch videos with them and everything. Although to you on your mobile device, your top-down view, you can go 3D, except for viewing a 3D screenshot. But yeah, so Anarchy Arcade is on multiple engines, so it's kind of a good grounds for me to test out some interop kind of stuff, because it's not really interop if it's between your own apps, right? But it's also guaranteed to work, so it's pretty good. So, any questions?
It would be nice to see like a mix of these simple pet behaviors with dialogue trees and whatnot. I think that it's a good combination. Like, especially, like for now, it's the idea is pets, but if the pet has some interesting information, it becomes something more interesting, I think.
That is an awesome idea. I actually submitted a proposal for that AI competition to have a little flying pet that flew around. And in Anarchy Arcade, all the stuff that you have that you see on the walls, all the media, that's stuff that the local user put there. So it kind of knows the local user, right? You can analyze what movies he put in there and then request movies that he's probably going to like because it's AI. So my idea was an AI that knows you through your library, and specifically in Anarchy Arcade, the spatial associations you make with things, because you position your shortcuts next to each other, and it could infer things from that. But yeah, there's a lot of interesting things you could do with pets. I went off kind of deep end with the learning from your media library. But as for Anarchy Arcade, the quest system, talking to an NPC, and the pet system, walking around and following you, are completely compatible because they don't clash anywhere. You can't go up and interact with the pet yet. So if you went up and you interacted with the pet and it showed a quest dialogue, that could work. And you could do a lot of cool stuff with that. At least you could have, the quest follow you around, even if it wasn't specific to where you're standing. Which kind of has me a little worried. Within a game itself, it definitely makes sense to have an NPC that follows you around and you could talk to. That happens in all kinds of games. But in an interop kind of way, it would be difficult to give context to that. Like, how is your NPC going to know how to behave to the environment it's in when it's never even seen the environment when you wrote its behavior?
Well, I think that starting from the easy stuff, the low-hanging fruit is the best, I think.
Yeah, and I would love to show you guys my dialogue system another day to see what you guys think about it, and we could start hashing out how we could do some interop. I also need to learn the Hyperfy one. I haven't seen it in action. I need to join one of the worlds that has it pretty soon.
Yeah, definitely.